Good?
Yep.
Sego, Scano, Ani, it's Aaron back again. I'm probably annoying you because I've been here so often, but that's okay. I hope it's alright. So the last segment, we just started on the Mohawk creation story. In the last segment, Sky Woman had just asked the Great Turtle for help in finding Earth. And Great Turtle replied, I have heard rumors that there is Earth at the bottoms of the great waters upon which we live. I will call upon 3 of my strongest friends to come down and help you. And out of the bright blue sky, down flies Loon beside Great Turtle. Up swims Beaver beside Great Turtle. And up hopped Muskrat on the turtle's back. Now Loon is known amongst our people as being a very loud and arrogant bird. When he wants his voice to be heard, he sticks out his chest, wiggles his wings, and gives voice to a voice that is so loud you can hear it from across the lake. Loon has an ability to fly high into the sky and dive down deep into the waters. Right? But whenever you see Loon dive into the waters, does he go straight down or does he go on an angle? He usually goes on an angle, and right before he hits that water, he streamlines his body so he does not make a splash. In this way, the fish he is hunting will not hear him and swim away. So this is how our people, we watched Loon and how he hunted fish. So when we designed our spear fishing, the flint that would go on the end of the spear, this stone, the flint, would be shaped into the shape of Loon's body right before he hit that water. So when we threw our spears on an angle just like Loon, and our spears didn't make a splash. So in other words, we learned how to spearfish by watching Loon. Loon said, I will fly high into the sky and dive down deep into the waters and reach for you the earth that you and your unborn child so desperately need. And with that, Loon rose up into the air, higher and higher and higher, until he was just a little speck against the blue. Then he arched his back, and he dove into those waters. When he hit those waters, he has to swim. He swam so far and so deep that the waters lost all their light and all their color. With Loon's last gasping breath, he reached out his 2 firm wingtips to try and touch that earth. But he touched nothing, and he floated his way to the surface of the oceans. Once there, he apologized to Sky Woman, and Sky Woman turned to Loon and thanked him for his gifts of flight and of fishing. And so whenever her and her unborn child are in need of fish for their tables, they'll remember this day, and they'll remember the gifts of the Loon. Next, Sky Woman turned to Beaver, and Beaver says, I'm not a strong fly like Loon. The only way you're going to see a beaver fly is if you pick him up and you throw him. But I wouldn't recommend throwing a beaver. They can weigh up to 50 pounds. And they cut down trees with their teeth. So just imagine what you do to your arm, right? Beaver says, I'm not a strong fly like Loon, but I spend all of my days in these waters. And therefore I am a very powerful swimmer. I will dive down deep into the waters and reach for you the earth that you and your unborn child so desperately need. And with that, Beaver slammed his tail upon the water and dove beneath the waves. He swam and he swam. So far and so deep did Beaver swim that the waters lost all of their light and all of their color. With Beaver's last gasping breath, he reached out his 2 front beaver paws. But again, he touched nothing, and he floated his way to the surface of the oceans far, far up above. Once there, he apologized to Sky Woman, and Sky Woman turned to Beaver and thanked him for his gifts of lodge building. So whenever her and her unborn child are in need of a roof over their heads, they'll remember this day, and they'll remember the gifts of the beaver. Next, Sky Woman turned to Muskrat, and Muskrat is not a very large animal, but his fur is made in a very special way by the Creator. When Muskrat is on land, his fur is separated like the fingers of my hand. This serves as air conditioning. But when Muskrat jumps into the lake or it starts to rain, Muskrat's fur closes up, and no water touches his skin. Therefore, Muskrat is waterproof. Muskrat said that I am not a strong fly like Loon, not a strong swimmer like Beaver, but I have a large heart and a determined mind. I will dive down deep into the oceans and reach for you the earth that you and your unborn child so desperately need. And with that, Muskrat leapt off Turtle's back and into those waters. Since Muskrat's pelt is made in that way, when Muskrat hit those waters split for him, almost like he was falling through air. He fell so far and so deep that the waters lost all of their light and all of their color. With Muskrat's last gasping breath, he reached out his two front muskrat paws, but he touched nothing. But Muskrat knew that if he failed, Sky Woman and her unborn child may die, and Muskrat could not let this happen. Muskrat thought and he thought, how could he help Sky Woman? And then he made that decision within his heart and in his mind to go on no matter what the cost. So Muskrat turned in those waters and fell even deeper into the ocean's depths, so far and so deep that the waters lost all of their light and all of their colors. Muskrat's lungs bursting, his vision going black and blurry. Muskrat's last dying breath, he reached out his two front muskrat paws. And at this time, he gathered up that earth, held that earth over his heart like this, arched his back so no water could take that earth away from him. And then he floated to the surface of the oceans far, far up above. What's there? Sky Woman was looking for Muskrat, for Muskrat had been down beneath the waves much more longer than loon or beaver. When she turned to see where Muskrat was, she found his lifeless body floating in the oceans. And Sky Woman was very, very sad, for she knew the Muskrat had died trying to reach for her the things that she so needed. She lifted Muskrat's body up out of the waters, laid him flat upon the turtle's back. When she opened up his paws to get his spirit back to the sky world, that is when she found the earth that Muskrat had gathered. She took that earth and she walked around the great turtle, spreading that earth as she went. And every time that earth touched the back of the great turtle, that turtle grew and grew and grew until it is the size it is today. Then Sky Woman took the roots that she still had clasped in her hands. She bit them into tiny bits and pieces. Then she took those pieces and spread those out all over the back of the great turtle. And everywhere those wood chips touched grew the first grasses, first trees, first corn, squash, and beans, strawberries, blueberries, and mulberries, and all the foods that our people would need in order to be healthy all came from that one tree of life, that one root that came from that one tree of life that existed in that place far, far above the clouds, in a place called Sky World. Donito, that's the end of the story. Did you guys like that story? It's a little bit different, right? But that's one of the reasons why I like sharing that part of the creation story, because it shows the transition between Sky World and Turtle Island. Now, most of us call North America, North America. But for First Nations people, especially the Iroquois, Anishinaabe, we call this land Turtle Island, specifically because of that story. Also, the land is shaped like a turtle. Right? So you look at North America, you have North America, there's Florida and California, and then you have the land bridge between North and South America. That's where the Panama Canal is. That is Snapping Turtle's neck. Florida, California, Snapping Turtle's front claws. Greenland, Alaska, Snapping Turtle's back claws. There's a series of islands that go right up to the North Pole. Snapping Turtle's tail is all bumpy. So that's Snapping Turtle's tail as he swims. So our people knew the shape of the land 22,000 years before there were satellites in the night sky. So when children ask me, is that story true? Because there's always one child who says that. Is that story true? I'm like, well, it's up to you. But for our people, this story is part of our culture. It's part of who we are. So to us, it is true. Right? And that's what I often share with them, is that story about the shape of the North America and the satellites and stuff. But also from that story, these stories are still told to this day. In our schools, on reserves, in our homes, during ceremonial times, these stories are still told. The stories are what create the building blocks of who we are as a culture and a society. Right? So, for example, the Bible is a book of stories that teach you how to live your life in a good way underneath the eyes of the Lord. Right? That's fine. Right? But our stories are the same thing, except our stories were never, ever written down. They're always told through the oral traditions. So one of the first skills that was taught to our children was the skill of listening. They were taught to listen first and ask questions later. Because our stories teach our children how to live their lives underneath the eyes of the Creator in a good way. Right? So, that story also shows how important our elder brothers are. Right? So we call the earth our mother, because all life comes from Mother Earth, right? You don't want to poison your mother. No, you don't want to make your mother sick. So for our people, Mother Earth is our mother. You don't want to poison the lakes, rivers, and streams, because that's our mother's lifeblood. You don't want to poison the earth like the soil, because that's our mother's flesh. And you don't want to make Mother Earth sick. So we always call the earth our mother, so we always protect Mother Earth. We call the moon our grandmother, because grandmother's always got us home in times of darkness. Right? So grandmother moon is always shining bright to guide us. Right? We call the sun brother sun, because brother sun is providing food with Mother Earth. So the green growing things grow because of Mother Earth. Right? We call the rocks our grandfathers, because they're the oldest beings here. But the rocks are not the strongest things here. The strongest things upon Mother Earth is the water, because the water shapes rock. And without water, we would not be here. Right? Our bodies can survive 3 weeks without food. We cannot survive 5 days without water. So water is very important. Right? So in that story, all the animals that help Sky Woman fall from Sky World to be upon the back of the Great Turtle, but they were all water animals. Right? So geese live in the waters. So without geese, we would not be here. Loon taught our people how to spearfish. Without loon, we would not be here. Beaver taught us how to build a roof over our heads. Without beaver, we would not be here. Great Turtle gave Sky Woman a place to stand. Right now, we're still standing on the back of the Great Turtle, which is Turtle Island. Without Turtle, we would not be here. Muskrat taught us that no matter how big or how small you are, if you're determined and loyal towards your goals, you'll always reach them. Without Muskrat, we would not be here. So that's one part of the creation story that is good, because it teaches our children to always respect the elder brother animals. Me, you, parents, teachers, we're all known as little brothers. We're the youngest beings upon this place. We are the weakest, we're the most reliant, we're the newest. But we're also the most arrogant. We think we can change things around us. But we do it without having proper respect. Right? So that's why whenever our people were hunting, back then or even to this day, we take down a deer, we always have to lay down tobacco and say a prayer of thanksgiving to that spirit of that animal for sharing his life so that our people can survive. Right? So that's one thing I'm trying to do with my youngest son, Jack. Right? Like when he was very little, he came home from school one day and he goes, "Daddy, today is the worst day ever." And I said, "Why is today the worst day ever?" He says, "Because I can't go outside and play." I said, "Well, why can't you go outside and play?" He said, "Because it's raining." And I said, "Well, who told you couldn't go outside and play in the rain?" And he goes, "No one." So I said, "By all means, go outside and play in the rain. Jump on those puddles, dance in the rain. But when you do, turn your face towards the sky and give thanks to the Creator for that gift of rain. Because when the Creator lets it rain, He's reminding us He's renewing life upon this land. He's making the green growing things go taller. Flowers shine brighter. Elder brother animals drink those waters and become stronger. Those waters wash away all the bad things. So always give thanks for the gift of rain." Right? So that was when he was like 4 or 5. Now my son's 12. And he's right into Fortnite. I hate Fortnite. Right? Because he plays it for like, especially now during the lockdown, he's on it for like 6 hours a night. But at least he's socializing. That's the reason why I let him. He's talking to his friends. Right? If it was just him in this game, I'd throw the game out. But he's socializing. But I still hate Fortnite because it's hard to get him off of it. But he's 12. Right? But that's okay. When school was still on, he came home one day and he goes, "Daddy, it's raining." And I said, "Okay. Turn off all the phones, turn off all the TVs, turn off all the computers, turn off all the games, turn off all the lights, come sit beside me on the couch. And we'll open up all the windows and just listen to the rain." So we sat there and we listened to the rain, and within 15 minutes, my son was fast asleep against me. Because that rain hitting the roof of our home is a soothing sound. It's a very relaxing sound. So that's why we always do that. I love the sound of the rain at night. I love thunderstorms, right? Because it's relaxing to me, right? To some people it scares, right? But that's all right. Right? It scares dogs too for some strange reason. I don't have a dog, but that's all right. Also, when he was younger, I live in a suburban neighborhood just like you. I have garage, I have bill payments, car payments, mortgage payments. I live my life just like everybody else. Right? So when it's nighttime and it rains, my son will grab his lightsaber. And I'll grab my lightsaber. And we'll go out onto the sidewalk at night and have lightsaber battles in the rain. Right? My neighbors think that we're strange because we're out there in the rain having lightsaber battles. Right? But I think that they're strange because the way that they look outside and give thanks for the gift of rain is by looking through the windows like this. Right? Me and my son, we're out in it. We want to feel that gift of rain upon our bodies. And just remind ourselves to always be thankful for that gift of rain and the gift of water. Right? So those are just some of the teachings from that particular creation story. The story goes on and how Sky Woman gives birth to 2 twins. But that's for another day. Not with me anyway. I'm sure there's lots of other elders and teachers out there who can share that part of the story. But that story delves more into the deeper side. And so, yeah. So we have 2 sessions left. And we'll stop this one here and then we'll get back to you very shortly.